I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to defend his cause. Maintain the honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
Hello, I'm James Brown, and on behalf of the Eastern Church of Christ located in Toronto, Canada, I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of Walking Through the Bible, a podcast where we seek to study the Bible and the Bible alone. Please stick around afterwards for information on how you can contact us. But for now, please go to the book of Genesis, and we'll turn you over to Jeremy Disocam for our study of the day.
Thank you, James, and welcome to all of our viewers. This is the 130th lesson in our study of Genesis. Yesterday, we covered Genesis chapter 37, verses 29 to 36, discussing how the brothers lied to Jacob about what happened to Joseph. If you missed that episode and would like to watch it, you can find it and all of our other podcasts on our website at www.easternchurch.org. You can also find them on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/EasternChurchOfChrist under the Walking Through the Bible Genesis playlist. Today we're going to begin with Genesis 38 verse 1 and read through verse 11. The text that you'll see on the screen is from the English Standard Version, but you're welcome to follow along with any version that you have. So let's now read Genesis 38, beginning at verse 1. It happened at that time that Judah went down from his brothers and turned aside to a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. There Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. He took her and went into her, and she conceived and bore a son, and called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. Yet again she bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. Judah was in Chezib when she bore him, and Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, Go into your brother's wife, and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he went in to his brother's wife, he would waste the semen on the ground, so as not to give offspring to his brother. And what he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death also. Then Judah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow in your father's house till Shelah my son grows up, for he feared that he would die like his brothers. So Tamar went and remained in her father's house. It would appear that the events of this chapter occur immediately following the events of the last chapter. If this is true, that would put Judah to be around the age of 21 here. From later chapters, we're going to know that only 22 years passed between chapter 37 and 46. If this chapter occurs immediately after chapter 37, there will not be enough time for the births of Judah's children, the births of Judah's children by Tamar, which occurred quite a few years later, and the births of Judah's grandchildren from the sons of Tamar. However, if Judah was in fact around 14 when this chapter began, that brings us a total of 29 to 30 years for all these events to take place in. That would also mean that Judah's sons would marry young as well, meaning that the grandchildren of Judah by Tamar would be around 1 to 2 years old when the family enters Egypt. Seeing as how Moses had a collection of records that he compiled under the direction of the Holy Spirit into what we call Genesis, it would make sense why these events aren't in chronological order. With this being the case, why was this chapter included at all? Because this story is mentioned in passing in chapter 46, and Judah's lineage will become important later as Jesus will descend from Judah through Tamar. The story begins by telling us that Judah married a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua. This was the first time we read of since Abraham arrived in Canaan that God's chosen people had married from the people of this land. Why did this happen? We're not entirely sure, but remember the covenant that Judah made with Laban not to return to Haran. This covenant was still in effect, so it might simply have been by necessity, having been cut off from their closest family in Haran. Judah has 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. Grew up, and Judah found him a wife whose name was Tamar. Now was wicked, in what way we don't know, but the Lord killed him. Without any male children, it was custom for the next oldest brother of the deceased to marry his brother's wife, and the firstborn son from that union would count as the heir to the deceased brother. This task fell to Onan. However, remember the custom of the birthright we talked about in chapter 25, lesson 84 of this series. The birthright is calculated by taking the whole number of children, adding 1, and then giving the oldest 2 portions. As the oldest, was due to receive 50% of Judah's estate. Onan, as the second child, would receive 25%. However, with dead, Onan would now receive 67% of Judah's estate. Had he raised up a child in Er's name, his portion would again be reduced to 25%. So Onan's sin here was not one of masturbation, because that's not what he was doing here. Nor was it the general practice of birth control, because under normal circumstances, couples can use such to prevent conception. His sin was one of greed in refusing to raise up seed for his brother. Judah, with now 2 of his sons dead at the hand of God, feared what would happen to Shelah had he been given to Tamar right away. So Judah told Tamar to remain a widow in Judah's house until Shelah is a little older. With that, our time is up for today. Please join us, the Lord willing, tomorrow when we will continue our study of Genesis, beginning with Genesis 38, verse 12.
Thank you, Jeremy. And to our viewers, we also thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Should you have a question or comment, please leave them below or email them to answerintheword@gmail.com. We'll try to respond to you as quickly as we can. We hope you'll join us, the Lord willing, tomorrow when we will be continuing on our study of the book of Genesis. Goodbye for now and have a great day.
I'm not ashamed.